everyone, my name is Becca Jordre. I am a physical therapist. I've been doing research with the National Senior Games for several years, and I've been working with a team of physical therapists with the Academy of Geriatric Physical Therapy to create some handouts, some educational materials specifically geared to the senior athlete. So the information that I'm going to talk about and present is geared to the individual who's already exercising and already probably getting that 150 minutes of exercise that's recommended in a typical week. And I know that that's very typical of a senior athlete, so I hope that we've got some good information for you. What I want to talk about today is our information that we put together on balance and fall prevention. We're going to have a link to this on the National Senior Games Association website. The reason we're going to talk about balance right now is that we're heading into fall, and the first day of fall is the day we talk about fall prevention awareness. It's important to make sure that we're all attending to that as we get older because falls increase significantly with age, unfortunately. In the general population, it's about 30% of older adults fall in a given year. In senior athletes, we see that number is drastically lower. We have only about a 10% fall rate in senior athletes, which is wonderful, and we want to see that rate stay low and maybe even get lower if we can get education out to everybody. One thing we see when we test our athletes' balance when we're out at the National Senior Games is that that's one feature that some people aren't checking in with. They're not paying attention to what their balance is or if it's changing, and we know that it tends to change as the years go by. So we want to make sure that you're checking in and paying attention to your balance, even if you think it's fine or not changing. So on the front of our handout, we've got some great information on balance background, what's happening with age and why our balance does change. It also talks about how to put yourself in a safe position for balance training. We want to make sure that you don't put yourself at risk for a fall simply by practicing falls, right? So put yourself maybe in a corner where you can touch the sides of the wall on either side, or at a kitchen countertop, or by a bar, or something that you grab onto in case you do start to lose your balance. Make sure you're not pushing your balance into a realm of risking fall when you're practicing any of this. That being said, there's some cool information on the back of this handout. There's a grid in the upper corner here, hopefully you can see that has some feet together and then in slightly tandem position and then in a complete tandem position. Where you can start with balance training is with just feet right together. And while that might seem really easy, what you can do to make that more challenging is to close your eyes and see how your balance changes without your vision. We know that a lot of balance depends on our visual input. So just trying that to see, does that change my balance or does it challenge it? If it doesn't, start to put your feet in a more narrow position. What we're going for is a very narrow base of support, and the most narrow base of support that you can find is standing on one leg. So if you want to work to that position and try single leg standing with your eyes closed, we know this is a really challenging position, and what we find is that senior athletes that can hold a position with their eyes closed on one foot for more than 5 seconds are actually less likely to experience a fall. The other thing you can add to these simple foot positions is dynamic movement. So go back to your feet just close together, try that position, and then try something like swinging your arms, right? Or going through the movement that would be associated with your sport, maybe an overhead arm swing, right? Or a golf swing, something like that. I know that's not the position necessarily for a golf swing, but if you're putting yourself through some dynamic movements, that can challenge your balance. If that's easy, try putting your feet in a more narrow position and then try those dynamic movements. If you're on one leg, single leg standing with your eyes open, you could try swinging the other leg, right? As if you're kicking, moving your leg out to the side or front to back, and adding those dynamic movements can challenge your balance with those dynamics. You can also simply try, when you're standing in a narrow base of support, just turning your head side to side. And that, with your eyes open, is still you'll be surprised at how much that's going to disturb your balance. So it's a lot like shutting your eyes because it's changing your visual input rather quickly, but it's also dynamic as well. And you can imagine that we sometimes need to be able to maintain our balance when our field of view is changing. So both challenging your balance with something dynamic and also with less visual input can be useful. The other way, you can go right back to this grid again, is to put yourself on an unstable surface. So when we do this with senior athletes testing, we put them on this AirX foam pad. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. This can be a Bosu ball, which might be a little bit harder, or a foam pad, or even like a couch cushion that you stand on. But something to make that input under your foot a little bit less reliable. And then again, start with your feet close together, try balancing there, see what happens, and then put yourself in a more and more narrow position to see how you manage. And maybe you can get to that single leg stance position, eyes open, and manage your balance on a less stable surface. I have tried some with my eyes closed on an unstable surface, and there is far too little input. I don't recommend it. It just doesn't seem safe. But if you can keep your balance on an unstable surface, standing on one leg, you could add some of those dynamic movements in with your arm or swinging your leg to challenge it even further. If you feel like your balance is really limited, these exercises don't seem safe, or you've already experienced a fall and you're frustrated with where your balance is, you should really talk to your physician or a physical therapist. You can get into physical therapy. That's an activity where a physical therapist can design a plan and work with you to really individualize what you need to improve your balance. And we know balance is something that if you keep working on it, it will get better. If you don't work on it at all, it is something that will naturally decline with time. You can also go to the website NCOA.org. That's the National Council on Aging's website. They have a bunch of great evidence-based fall prevention programs that you can search, sort of read about, and see if there are any programs close to you in your area. They'll be able to direct you towards those. One of those programs that I feel works really well is Tai Chi. I see a lot of senior athletes who are engaging in Tai Chi and find it very challenging and beneficial for their balance. So those are resources that you can check out online as well, or try some of the exercises on the balance handout. We'll have some other handouts up for you as well on cardiovascular fitness, bone health, strength, and flexibility. And I'll hope to have a chance to visit with you about those as well. So here's to better balance and to preventing falls even in senior athletes. Thanks.